Chaos has erupted behind bars as reports confirm that Diddy has been attacked in prison. Shocking new allegations have surfaced, and it appears that inmates have now turned against him, leaving his safety in question. The latest development has sent shockwaves across social media, with many questioning if Diddy will survive his time in prison, or if this is just the beginning of an even darker chapter. According to multiple sources, tensions inside the prison had been building for weeks, and things finally reached a breaking point. Insiders claim that a group of inmates confronted Diddy over disturbing new allegations that have been making their way through the prison system.
The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is notorious for its appalling living conditions and rampant violence. How bad is it inside this federal lockup? There have been 2 murders, 4 suicides, and numerous stabbings and lockdowns in recent years. It's so out of control inside that 4 federal judges are reportedly refusing to send any more prisoners here. Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, spent a harrowing year in federal custody. He says for someone used to a life of luxury like Diddy, prison life is a severe shock.
You have a desk, you have a plastic chair, you have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow, and you also have a locker. So you basically have 3 feet by 5 feet to move around. So you have a basic 15 square feet. It is a horrible, horrible place.
Diddy's lawyers were so eager to keep him out of jail, they offered his palatial $48 million home in Miami Beach.
Some reports suggest that these accusations have made him a target, with many inmates wanting nothing to do with him, while others see him as a symbol of power that needs to be taken down. What exactly led to this violent attack? And who is truly behind the sudden turn against Diddy? New details suggest that Diddy was caught off guard when the attack occurred. Witnesses claim that a group of inmates cornered him in a common area, hurling threats before things turned violent. Prison officials are said to have intervened quickly.
Sean Diddy Combs reportedly underwent treatment in a hospital as he continues to await trial on sex trafficking charges. According to Page 6, the 55-year-old was transported from Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the federal prison where he was sent following his September arrest, late January 30th to undergo an MRI and was then soon returned to police custody later that night. The outlet cites a source as saying that the medical scan was authorized because his knee was bothering him. E! News has reached out to reps for Diddy and the Federal Bureau of Prisons for comment and has not heard back. The Grammy winner's attorney, Mark Agnafilo, tells TMZ, quote, "I cannot comment on anything related to prisoner movements. Also, I'm not commenting on anything related to possible medical issues." Diddy had shared in a since-deleted Instagram post in 2017 that he had undergone his 3rd knee surgery in a year. The Federal Bureau of Prisons has neither confirmed nor denied the reports about Diddy's hospital visit.
But not before Diddy sustained injuries. Some sources claim that he was left bruised and shaken, while others suggest that the situation was far worse than initially reported. Could this be the beginning of a full-scale campaign against him inside the prison walls? According to insider sources, the attack occurred earlier today in the prison yard, where Diddy was reportedly confronted by a group of inmates. The altercation turned violent, leaving Diddy with serious injuries, including bruises, cuts, and a possible broken rib.
That P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they told his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch.
The attack is said to have been fueled by new allegations that have been circulating within the prison, painting Diddy in an even more negative light. Inmates are reportedly outraged by the claims, which include accusations of misconduct and abuse of power. Reports also indicate that Diddy had been warned days before the attack that trouble was brewing. Some say that inmates had been overheard discussing their disdain for him, while others claim that prison gangs had issued direct threats. It's unclear if Diddy's legal team was aware of these threats or if prison officials had taken any steps to prevent an attack.
After his arrest in New York, Diddy was booked at MDC. Back then, we took a deep dive into MDC's conditions, but they're really worth revisiting. Following Diddy's arrest, his attorney Mark Agnifilo immediately sounded the alarm on MDC, arguing there are some major issues with the jail, citing violence, poor conditions, overcrowding, and even staffing issues. He also cited some startling statistics. 2 inmates have been killed at MDC since June, and at least 4 inmates have died by suicide over the past 3 years. On top of that, 6 staff members have been charged with crimes over the past 5 years. Even with all these questionable stats, it's still common for defendants to be housed at MDC after their arrest, as they're awaiting trial in either Manhattan or Brooklyn. And the jail is no stranger to high-profile inmates either. MDC famously housed R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried, who's actually there right now. We've mentioned Sam Bankman-Fried to you in the past.
However, one thing is certain. His time behind bars has just become significantly more dangerous. Social media has exploded with reactions to the news, with hashtags like Diddy Attacked and prison drama trending worldwide. Fans of the music mogul are expressing shock and concern, calling for better protection for Diddy while he's behind bars. Many are questioning how someone as high-profile as Diddy could be left so vulnerable in prison.
Diddy has allegedly befriended some of his fellow inmates, who have apparently started helping him out with tasks like making his bed or cleaning his cell. Prosecutors allege Diddy is also using the phone accounts belonging to some of these other inmates. They say Diddy knows his phone line is being monitored, so by using the other phone lines, he hopes to keep his conversations private. According to court docs, Diddy is partaking in unauthorized 3-way calls as a way to send hundreds of texts, and some of these messages are apparently going to people on Diddy's no-contact list. The feds say Diddy has used the accounts of at least 8 other inmates, but they say he's doing more than that. They allege Diddy is also trying to corruptly influence witness testimony and taint the jury pool from behind bars. Prosecutors wrote, quote, "While attempting to invade law enforcement monitoring, the defendant has, among other things, orchestrated social media campaigns that are, in his own words."
At the same time, critics are pointing to the attack as a stark reminder of the consequences of his alleged actions, with some saying he's facing the reality of his choices. The prison administration is now facing heavy scrutiny, with critics questioning whether they did enough to protect Diddy from this assault. Some reports suggest that guards may have turned a blind eye, allowing tensions to escalate unchecked. Others believe that the prison staff may have underestimated the level of hostility growing against Diddy, ultimately failing to act before it was too late.
It was filed on January 30th. Coincidentally, according to the New York Post, that's the same day P. Diddy was taken to a Brooklyn hospital from MDC. MDC is the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. It's where Diddy's been held since his arrest back in September. His team has tried multiple times for bail, but it's always been denied. So that's where Diddy has been for months now, but last week he was taken to the hospital. According to reports from the New York Post, Diddy was transported from MDC in the cover of darkness at about 10 p.m. on January 30th. He was taken to a Brooklyn hospital for an MRI after reporting issues with his knee. This actually isn't the first time we've heard about Diddy's knee either. He's apparently had problems with it since 2003 when he ran the New York Marathon. He even had multiple knee surgeries back in 2017. In a now deleted Instagram post, Diddy shared this photo and wrote, quote, "Just had my final knee surgery. They said I'd never run again. I said the devil is a liar."
If more attacks follow, could prison officials be held accountable for negligence? Let's take a closer look at how this story unfolded. Diddy, whose real name is Sean Combs, was arrested and charged earlier this year, following a series of allegations that have rocked the music industry. The charges range from workplace harassment to more serious claims of abuse, and the case has been one of the most closely watched legal battles in recent memory. Diddy has consistently denied the allegations, calling them false and defamatory.
So apparently Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a Brooklyn hospital. He was only gone for a couple of hours and came straight back to MDC after his MRI was finished. Diddy's attorney Mark Agnifilo told TMZ, quote, I cannot comment on anything related to prisoner movements. Also, I'm not commenting on anything related to possible medical issues. A statement from the Federal Bureau of Prisons was released too. It says, quote, "For privacy, safety, and security reasons, we do not comment on the conditions of confinement for anyone in our custody, to include medical status or medical trips." Well, the Federal Bureau of Prisons may not be able to comment on all of this, but I do know someone who can. I'm going to bring in Dr. Dwayne Hendricks, a former corrections officer and deputy warden right there at MDC.
But his life in prison has become a focal point of the ongoing drama. Meanwhile, legal analysts are speculating on how this incident could impact Diddy's ongoing legal battles. Some believe that his legal team may attempt to use this attack as justification for requesting a transfer to a safer facility. Others argue that the prosecution could view this as a sign that even fellow inmates believe in the severity of the allegations against him. Will this attack strengthen Diddy's case, or could it be a signal that his situation is far worse than anyone imagined?
Necessarily, only in the format that it happened with him leaving later in the evening. Typically, inmates are given a physical within the first 14 days of their arrival, and if there's anything that indicates that needs immediate follow-up, the medical team there will follow up immediately. However, if there's some procedures or some sort of medical processes that need to go through that are not available at the institution, or they can't bring someone in like a specialist to come in to perform that medical process at the institution, they will schedule medical trips on a monthly basis, and there's a review team that goes over those trips every month. And but this particular process was a little bit different because, as you know, most doctors' offices and most folks that do MRIs and X-rays and things of that nature, they're on a normal work schedule.
The new allegations, which have been circulating within the prison, reportedly include claims of misconduct and abuse of power that go beyond the initial charges. These claims have sparked outrage among inmates who see Diddy as a symbol of corruption and privilege. The attack is said to have been a direct response to these allegations, with inmates taking matters into their own hands. Friends and associates of Diddy have been quick to express their outrage, calling the situation unacceptable and inhumane.
Combs owed him millions of dollars, so what he wanted was Combs to be prevented from selling his mansion out in Los Angeles because there might have been an alleged effort to hide or get rid of assets. But what's the connection between Cardelo Smith and Sean Combs? Well, in court filings, Cardelo Smith claims, he alleges, that Combs drugged and raped him at a party in the 1990s out in Detroit. And he has even said that he has spoken with Sean Combs multiple times about a payout, even in person, which is something that Combs strongly denies. His attorneys later told the court, "We don't even know who this guy is." But since Combs' team didn't respond to that lawsuit when it was filed, and Combs was allegedly served, the judge granted a default judgment in favor of Cardelo Smith, and that meant Cardelo Smith was apparently going to get $100 million. A default judgment is, you don't respond, the court automatically rules in the opposing party's favor.
They argue that Diddy, despite the allegations against him, deserves to be treated with basic human dignity and protected from harm. Social media has erupted in response to the breaking news, with hashtags like #Diddy ATTACKED and #Justice for Diddy trending worldwide. Fans are voicing their concerns, with many arguing that he deserves protection while serving his sentence. On the other hand, critics are suggesting that this attack is merely the consequence of his past actions catching up with him.
Federal criminal charges that he's facing related to sex trafficking, racketeering, his trial currently scheduled for May of 2025. Now, Combs has always denied any and all alleged sexual misconduct and says he is looking forward to proving his innocence in court. Now, going back to Cardelo Smith, the fight against Cardelo Smith, this wouldn't be an easy one. He has become something of a serial filer of lawsuits and habeas corpus petitions and other filings in state and federal courts, most often representing himself. He's got these long legal filings, sometimes hundreds of pages long. They're full of citations and case law. I will tell you, though, Cardelo Smith's personality certainly comes through in some of the language that he uses. He's also a big fan of run-on sentences. But anyway, attorneys for Combs have called out Cardelo Smith, specifically that his claims, they say, are wildly untrue. They say his allegations are baseless, that Combs has never met him.
The debate is intensifying, and public opinion is growing more divided by the minute. However, others close to the case suggest that Diddy's struggles in prison are a direct result of his alleged actions and the notoriety surrounding his case. Legal experts weigh in, suggesting that the attack could have serious implications for Diddy's legal battle, potentially swaying public opinion and even influencing the judge's decision. At the same time, prison authorities are facing intense scrutiny for failing to protect Diddy from such threats.
The case team consists of the agents and AUSAs investigating and prosecuting Combs. So let me start there. So yes, there was a raid at the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center, where currently Sean Combs is being locked up. Now, the government has always indicated that this raid was pre-planned, and it wasn't specifically about Sean Combs, whose unit was searched. Now, Combs' team has had a different take, which we'll get into a little bit more, but basically the idea is that this was a pretext to search Sean Combs' unit. But the idea here is there was a raid to search for contraband. This is a detention center that has been plagued with violence and drugs and weapons. Okay, so this raid, this sweep, it happens. And this investigator, Investigator 1, apparently took photos of 19 pages of Sean Combs' notes and sent them to a filter team. Now, a filter team is supposed to be an independent, third-party team not connected to the prosecutors.
Adding even more fuel to the fire, new footage has reportedly emerged showing the aftermath of the attack. Some sources claim that the clip shows Diddy being escorted out of the common area, visibly distressed and shaken. If this footage is released to the public, it could paint a clearer picture of what really happened, and whether this was an isolated incident or part of a larger plan to target him. This isn't just a story about Diddy. It's about the broader issues of safety and accountability within the prison system.
This isn't the first time Diddy's mental health has come into question while he's been at MDC. When he first arrived, he was on suicide watch, which the U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections describes as supervisory precautions taken for suicidal inmates that require frequent observation. Diddy's suicide watch was only temporary, though. He was housed in a special protective unit of the jail after that for the first few weeks of his stay. But Diddy right now is in Gen Pop, meaning general population, the place where majority of the inmates stay. And that's where he apparently had this meltdown over the holidays, at least according to one source. Another source, though, disagrees with all of this. They say Diddy is staying strong in jail despite missing his family a great deal at Christmas, which is a time he often spends with his children. But however Diddy spent the holidays, there is still a lot of questions in the case of Sean Combs.
The attack has sparked important conversations about how high-profile inmates are treated and whether the system is equipped to protect them. Some are calling for reforms to ensure that all prisoners, regardless of their status, are kept safe from harm. Others argue that Diddy's situation is a consequence of his alleged actions and that he must face the realities of prison life. Diddy's family is said to be devastated by the news, with some insiders reporting that they are now in emergency discussions with his legal team.
This complaint reads, quote, "For decades, Sean Combs abused, molested, raped, assaulted, threatened, and coerced men, women, minors, and others for sexual gratification to assert dominance and to conceal his abhorrent conduct. He accomplished these acts by and through a criminal enterprise built on his success as a rapper, record producer, and record executive. Combs is one of the wealthiest musical artists in the world. Behind the facade of being a 3-time Grammy Award winner, discovering and developing multiple famous musical artists, and ranking on Forbes' list of the highest paid entertainers in the world, there existed something sinister. A dark underbelly of crime, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, and prostitution. Combs is a menace to society, women, and children. While his wealth has kept him above consequence for years, Combs now faces the awesome power of the American judicial system and ultimately a jury of his peers who will be asked to punish him for the deplorable conduct described herein. Now, you don't usually see.
Sources close to the family say that they are deeply concerned for his safety and are considering taking legal action against the prison for failing to protect him. Could this lead to a full-scale lawsuit against the institution? Or will this only add more complications to an already messy situation? As the case continues to unfold, one question looms large. What's next for Diddy? Will the attack lead to changes in his prison conditions? Or will he continue to live in fear? And how will this incident impact his legal case and public image?
That Combs is facing out in New York, where he's charged with the federal crimes of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. It is so similar. Namely, prosecutors allege that he used his business empire and his resources to abuse and traffic women, including through commercial sex acts. And that this criminal enterprise that he was allegedly running engaged in a long list of crimes, not just sex trafficking, but forced labor, kidnapping, arson. That's what prosecutors have been alleging. But again, this lawsuit mirrors that. And by the way, little side note also before we continue. Sean Combs has denied all wrongdoing. Okay, he has denied all of the criminal charges. He has denied all the sexual assault allegations in all of his lawsuits. He says he's looking forward to his day in court, and he's innocent. He's innocent until proven guilty, and he hasn't been found liable in any of these cases. Just want to make that clear.
For now, all eyes are on the prison system and the courtroom as the world waits to see how this story will unfold. The entertainment industry is also reacting to the news, with several high-profile figures weighing in on the situation. Some celebrities have taken to social media to demand better protection for high-profile inmates, while others are remaining silent, distancing themselves from the controversy. Could this incident spark a wider discussion about prison conditions, or will it simply be another headline in an already scandalous case?
She was acquitted to everything that he's facing now. I mean, John Doe lists out the multiple people who have sued Sean Combs: Cassandra Ventura, Joy Dickerson-Neal, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, Adria English, and more. And John Doe also explains the criminal charges as well. Now, while a lot of that may not be per se relevant to the case, this is key to list this out. Why? Because aside from setting up the context of the scene, there is another important legal reason for including all of this. So John Doe, and we will get into all of the allegations in a moment about what he says happened to him, but John Doe is suing under the New York City Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. The argument is that forced sexual contact is a crime of violence and that it was motivated by the fact that he is a man. And that, quote, Combs' long history of violence and sexual abuse against men evinces a deep contempt and desire for domination over men.
As the investigation into the attack continues, one major question remains: who orchestrated this assault? And will there be further retaliation? Some sources believe that this was a warning, with inmates sending a message that Diddy is no longer untouchable behind bars. Others speculate that rival factions within the prison may now be plotting their next move. Could Diddy be facing even greater danger in the days ahead? New reports are emerging, suggesting that tensions inside the prison have been growing due to Diddy's perceived special treatment.
The person who is suing him, this person should have to identify themselves. The defendant has a right to investigate who this person is, investigate their claims, and unless there is enough evidence to suggest that revealing their identity would cause them harassment or harm or risk their safety of some kind, you need actual evidence to demonstrate that. Or you should suggest, oh, revealing my identity will have a severe emotional and psychological impact on me, then maybe you need mental health professionals who can provide a declaration to that or a testimony to that in some regard. So again, we will see if John Doe is allowed to continue as John Doe. And by the way, if this actually does progress towards a trial, you imagine a lot of this is going to be coming from the testimony of John Doe. Keep that in mind. All right. So what are the allegations? It says, quote, in the summer of 2012, John Doe, a 17-year-old minor from Indiana, traveled to New York City to visit his brother and friends. Staying in Soho, Doe spent his time exploring the city's nightlife with his brother and friend.
Some inmates are reportedly furious over rumors that he has access to privileges that other prisoners do not. Sources claim that Diddy's legal team had been pushing for better living conditions, which may have further isolated him from the general prison population. If this is true, could this resentment be the real reason behind the attack? Meanwhile, leaked documents have surfaced, suggesting that prison officials may have been aware of the growing threats against Diddy but failed to take action. Some insiders claim that security measures were intentionally relaxed, allowing the attack to take place.
We covered here on Sidebar. The prosecutors say his alleged criminal enterprise in that case, it now goes back to 2004. And they expanded alleged criminal activities that make up sex trafficking and racketeering from just the freak-offs, which we've talked about extensively, to more generally the way they've described it was commercial sex acts, including with male sex workers. And now there are at least 3 alleged victims in the criminal case who are part of the charge of transportation to engage in prostitution. So all of this to say, again, we don't know for sure if John Doe here is potentially a part of the criminal case, but based on his allegations, based on a 5-year time span, he's talking about from 2007 to 2012, it matches up with what we're hearing in the criminal case. So could he potentially be a witness to all this? It's consistent. We don't know. We shall see. Moving on. The complaint reads, on these additional engagements through plaintiff's agencies, Combs offered plaintiff beverages, which...
If these allegations are true, this could lead to an even bigger scandal, raising questions about corruption and misconduct within the prison system. Adding to the controversy, new audio recordings have reportedly surfaced, capturing conversations between inmates discussing their plans to confront Diddy. Some legal experts believe this could be used as evidence to support claims that the attack was premeditated. If proven, this could put significant pressure on prison authorities to provide answers and take action against those responsible.
Oil, this is important. I remember in another lawsuit filed by a different John Doe from last year, there was a claim in that case that Combs had laced baby oil with the date rape drug GHB. Now, this complaint continues. While plaintiff was in this disoriented state, Combs instructed him to perform acts that were outside the scope of the agreed-upon performance and limitations set by plaintiff and his agency. Combs instructed plaintiff to engage in acts such as pleasuring himself while Combs and the women engaged in sexual intercourse. Plaintiff, left in an incapacitated state after applying the baby oil to his skin, found himself mentally and physically unable to resist or express his discomfort, leading to his unwilling compliance with Combs' demands, essentially meaning he didn't consent to any of this. Once the intoxicating effects of the substances have subsided, plaintiff felt a deep sense of humiliation and shame for being coerced into such acts. Obviously, this is horrific. This is disturbing.
With more details emerging, legal analysts believe that Diddy's defense team may push for an emergency hearing to address his safety concerns. Some are even speculating that they could attempt to negotiate an early release under the argument that his life is in imminent danger. But will the courts be willing to listen? As the world watches closely, one thing is clear. Diddy's time in prison is becoming increasingly dangerous. The coming days could determine his fate, as investigators work to uncover the full truth behind this shocking attack.
So John Doe claims he was, not surprisingly, excited for what could be a, quote, tremendous opportunity. He gave Combs his phone number. Now again, it's interesting that if you take this timeline as true, after everything that Combs allegedly did to him, to now get even closer to him, again, that could be a problem for this case, but we continue. But from there, John Doe claims that Combs invited to meet several times, offering to listen to John Doe's music, traveling to Las Vegas, New York City, LA, Miami. And he said that Combs paid for and arranged travel and hotels through Bad Boy Records. By the way, important because if you're talking about sex trafficking, it seems to be suggesting that he's using company resources to move someone across state lines to sexually abuse. We'll get to that in a minute. But he says that Combs would pat him down, take his phone, and then this is really crazy. So he claims that Sean Combs had a gun on him, either on him or somewhere in the room.
Will he be transferred to a safer facility? Or is he destined to face more threats behind bars? One thing is for sure. This story is far from over. What do you think? Was this attack a setup? Or is Diddy truly in danger? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all the latest breaking news. We'll see you in the next video.